Before we get into today's video, just know that this was on an early build and things of course are subject to change. So then it's that time of year, Football Manager 2020, and I, DoctorBenjy FM, was invited down to Sports Interactive HQ, the place in which they make Football Manager, and yeah, I thought we'd go through some early access footage that I was able to get my hands on. So I thought we'd kick things off this year with my first impressions of Football Manager 2020, things I do like, things I don't like, combine them into one video, and talk through a few bits and pieces. I will be doing some videos this week that outline some of the new features and additions to this year's game, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss those. Let's then start off with Club Vision. Now, Club Vision, it's a new tab this year into Football Manager 2020, something we've not seen before. It's replacing the quite basic boardroom that you've seen for many years now. It's a new way of the board to outline their plans for the upcoming season, as well as their 5-year plan that they hope you'll get through. Sadly, though, it doesn't mean you'll get a 5-year contract. You still have to impress in year 1 to continue the plan. If there is a plan. Some teams don't have plans. Some owners just want to sell the club immediately, but do give you a year 1 season plan in the hope that you can do something good. It's a really good addition for long save players of the game this year. A very rewarding aspect of the game as well. Like year on year, each club has its own individual identity now and a philosophy. And while they're all set up quite clearly and they're quite set in stone, you are able to have a meeting when appointed where you can attempt to negotiate. Some boards are obviously more willing than others. You're not going to get every board going, yes, it's fine, change things. Most of them have got a clear idea of what they want. Of course, a change in ownership, though, that could change things around. Yeah, that's one thing I really like about this year. No ownership may alter the plans dramatically, but that sort of flexibility makes the game feel more authentic. I want to take over to have a major impact, as long as it doesn't mean that I get sacked. That's not the sort of, that scares me. As soon as they say we're looking to replace the manager, please don't replace the manager. I'm the manager. It's a really nice addition, one that is its best when you're a lower league side. If you're a titan like PSG or Bayern Munich, right, you can predict what they want. They want you to win their league. The plan is quite simple, even with the different philosophies in place, but lower league clubs is one of the biggest changes, and I think people will like it a lot. I personally really do like it a lot. As I say, I'll be doing a video later this week going into a little bit more detail over Club Vision, so I think there's a lot to delve into with that one. Right then, the match engine. We've not seen massive amounts of it, so it's time to give you the lowdown on the match engine. I've heard a lot of people say things this year like the match engine looks the same, or the match engine hasn't changed in 5 years. And while I don't think it's perfect, and from what we captured at the event, right, it still needs some work. To say this year's engine and animations are the same as FM19's, well, it's wrong. Look, are there still some tuning issues with goalkeepers? Yes. Do players sometimes make ridiculous decisions? Yes. Do players cut the ball back to the really obvious player coming at the far post rather than shooting wide? Actually, yeah, they do, but not every time. But let's face it, don't do it every time in real life either, do they? I've seen enough football to know. So, of course, while there are problems, there are certainly some positives to take from the match engine. The animations look far better, much better. We spoke to the guys there at Sports Interactive. They've made countless changes to animations going into this year. The motion capture is different to previous years. It was striking. You could see it, right? When a player controls and moves the ball on, it's in a far more fluid motion than we've seen before. You know, it makes games feel far less robotic than in previous years. And from the footage gathered, there's a range of shots that can be scored this year. It's much wider. Before it felt, as I say, quite robotic. You almost knew what was coming. This year, goals can be scored from all over the place, which I do enjoy. I think it gives you just a nicer feeling when managing a side and they pull off a goal that you think, oh wow, I wasn't expecting it to be like that. That's what I look for. I thought FM19 was quite a repetitive game, and admittedly, I've not pumped 500 hours, 1,000 hours, 2,000 hours into FM20 yet, but it does appear that there's far more originality when it comes to match differences. Graphically, it's better than FM19, and nobody should expect, though, or pretend that it's the best it can be, okay? We're still not at that finished product that we compare maybe other games in the industry to, you know, the rivals that you know who I'm talking about, right? And we're still not there with Football Manager, and whether we will be this year, next year, future years to come, we still don't really know. It's better. It's not brilliant, but it's better. And I think year on year, that's the minimum expectation we have for Football Manager. Very rarely, if ever, does it get worse. So that's one thing we can take away from it. I'm sure you'll have your own thoughts, and it's worth noting that footage and playing it in real life is not always the same. And again, as I mentioned at the start of the video, things are subject to change. The match engine is something that gets played around with all the time. So yeah, we're still not sure what the finished product will look at. Of course, we'll know when the beta comes out and then the release on the 19th. The Development Centre. Now then. This is something lots of people have wanted for a long time, right? And while a lot of the information may have been accessible in the past, some of what we find in regards to player development is completely new. I think I owe it to people, to be honest. From what we're getting, it depends on how you play the game, right? If you're a short-term save player, aka you don't play until almost every player is a new gen regen, right? Maybe at that point you think, do you know what, it's not quite as realistic as I was hoping it would be. I don't recognize all the players. You want to play with those real-life players. I understand that, right? I get it. You won't benefit from the player development as much as someone that plays for 20 years. You know, you've got a club that you manage and it becomes a part of you. This is one of the best editions ever if you're that person. If you play for a single save for 20 years or you move around different clubs and things like that, the development of players this year is one of the best editions, I'm going to say, ever to Football Manager, right? That's a quite a big statement, right? You might think that there'll be people who will play the game and think, you know what, a lot of this feels familiar to last year, but to have it in a centralized place is really, really great. The ability to track which type of players are coming through the youth setup, what positions they play, how good your youth candidates are going to be before actually seeing their player profiles is great. Being able to map their progression after they've signed a new contract on the new development screens is a nice touch too. Look, while, you know, last year they allowed you to look at how much you'd improved a player over 6 months, a year, 2 years, you know, that show the attributes going up 1, 2, 3. It's all now in a centralized place. You don't have to go to player. You can just hit back and you're back at the screen to look at like which players are developing. You can see a graph. There's graphs to show star ratings as well, right? I go as far to say that not many Football Manager screens can be quite beautiful, but it's quite a beautiful Football Manager screen. You'll know what I mean if you've played the game. You'll get what I'm saying with that one. It's really cool to be able to see the loan progress and the youth squads all in the same place. It's great, honestly. It feels like you're managing a club this year, not just a first team. I want that to be a real point this year, that this year you are managing the club far more than you're managing the first 11. There'll definitely be some of you out there that play and you all encompass the 19s, the 23s, right? And you put them all together. But for a lot of players, it's quite difficult sometimes to keep track of what's going on with these lone players, what's going on with the 23s and the 19s. And it's all a lot easier. It's in one place now. The game will tell you which players need more attention and the players in the one to watch category that could impact on the first team squad in the future. And of course, front and centre, you have first team candidates. More often than not, players that you've sent out on loan that could come back and make an impact in your first team squad. And that's a really nice point again in developing players through your system, knowing who's coming through, how well they're doing, how they compare to what you've got. Like, it's an important aspect of football. Please note though, and I see this as really important, right? When you first load up FM20 and you go to the development centre, there isn't a great deal to look at, especially in terms of like youth candidates, right? As I mentioned before, if you're a long-term save player, these screens are brilliant. And after 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, you'll get loads out of it. If you play for 6 months, or you play for a year, you're going to get so little out of the development screen. It's unreal. They are really driving. You can see Football Manager have appeared like to have aimed their new game at those long-term players, you know. And while that might disappoint some people, I do think it brings a lot more pros than cons. It gives you an all-round feel of how the game's coming out now. Last year, training, it was a lot more sort of instant in that sense. Again, we involved developing players, but this year you can see the graphs. I talked about it before. The graphs are a pivotal part of seeing clear how they're progressing and how long it took them to progress over a period of time. And yeah, I think, again, if you're into that sort of thing, this is going to be massive, like really, really huge for you. Now, tactics. And for those that went to the capture event, it might surprise them that I'm talking about tactics, because tactics, by and large, haven't had a great deal of change to instructions or player roles. You now have the inverted wingers in a slightly more advanced area, in that AML, AMR position. Essentially, they'll play outside the box more, looking to assist rather than the inside forwards, who are taking more risks and looking to score themselves, right? I get better advice. An example could be how much they've improved the ability to select a square on the tactics pitch, bringing up more of a detailed analysis on the factors that influences your strengths and your weaknesses in that area of the pitch, like which players are covering that area, which players are responsible for the area. It's a really great asset this year. Look, before it felt like you were guessing, right? And when it comes to in possession and in transition and out of possession screens, they're the same as last year, right? There's some things that they don't need to change or fix because they're already quite good. But note that distributing to your centre-backs now can be a thing, right? If you're distributing to the centre-backs, they'll do it inside the box to go with the new rule change. Lots of people seem to be really concerned, can I pass it inside the box? Yes, you can pass it inside the box, it's fine. To summarise, and look, I could go on for another 30 minutes about every change within the game, from league rule screens being different to the way that player contracts can alter the squad status year on year to give a more natural player progression. The reality is this game is better than last year's game. There are a whole host of quality of life improvements, meaning that things are more accessible, displayed far better, and that allow you to play the game with more ease than ever before. The game still comes with the tutorial-themed inductions that are very handy for new and existing players, and the backroom staff one is certainly worth a look with a couple of new roles being included. It's worth remembering This is an early build, but to their credit, it's a very good early build. And while I can understand some people being underwhelmed by some aspects of the game, rarely will you ever find a game with more value for money than Football Manager. If you're looking for an improved match engine with better animations, significant changes to the way you deal with squad development, and defined club visions that expand the game's realistic feel, then you have to buy it, right? If you're a short-term player, I won't pretend this game is hugely different from FM19, but as I've said before, it's better. And if you play it for several hundred hours, it's always going to be worth getting, right? And that comes down to it. I did a tweet a while ago to say that, look, your save game very much defines how fondly you remember a previous version of the game. Like for some people, your favourite FM will be FM17, not because of what the new features were, but because of the journey that you went on. And FM20 allows you to go on a more expansive journey if that's the way you like to play the game. I think it's important for me to be as honest as possible, and that's why I say, right, like if you're a short-term save player, this game is not a massive jump from last year, and there's loads of things, and I hope the people at Football Manager aren't upset watching this thinking he's not explained this, and this. There's loads of little bits, right, that as you go through and you play, whether it be contract negotiations or anything like that, right, I'll make some videos on those. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in terms of detailed stuff that we're going through. There's lots to talk about. There's lots to discuss in terms of what's new within the game. But these were my first impressions. These are the first things that I noticed and the first things that I think are important to a lot of the guys that watch these videos. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like on it. If you want to see some more, make sure you're subscribed. And yeah, lots of Football Manager content coming soon. The beta I'm playing with Spurs. That date, of course, is still to be decided. But episode 1 will be out on day 1, and then going forward from that, Glory Hunter, 20 years. All the trophies, and yeah, there'll be more details on that coming soon. We'll have with care then from until next time. Keep an eye out on the channel for more Football Manager 20 content. And again, thank you to Sports Interactive for inviting me down. They didn't pay me to say any of this, so I hope everyone feels like they've been given a fair assessment of my personal, again, other creators will have other feelings, my personal feelings towards the beginning of FM20, my first impressions. So we love with care. Goodbye. And before you go, if you want to win a copy of FM20 this year with beta access, head over to Instagram, instagram.com/DoctorBenjyFM with a chance to win. See the graphic on screen? Go over there, tell which team you're going to start your first save with, and be in with a chance to win.